Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. This is going to be my favorite one and done eyeshadows. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. In this video, I'm going to be showcasing 15 of my favorite one and done eyeshadows. This is an ongoing series here on the channel. I've been doing these videos every year for a few years now, so I'll make sure to link any of my previous editions in the description box down below because I don't want to be too repetitive, and some of you who've been following my channel for a while will know what feature favorites I have shared with you in the past. So I wanted to do this a little bit differently. So I have 5 singles for you and then 10 shades from palettes that I think are excellent one and done eyeshadows. So let me get to these. So this is a little of an overview of what you can expect from the video in a second, but as I just mentioned, I have 5 singles here, and then there are things from palettes. There are no singles from my singles palettes here. I featured those in the past. I've also featured things like ColourPop Super Shocks that I've enjoyed. Those are still favorites. I still like those. I enjoy a good one and done eyeshadow, but I haven't really dug through my eyeshadow palette collection all that much and given you advice on shades in palettes that I think can make for good one and done. So I'm going to give you a couple of single things that if you want to have a good one and done and that's all you want to use, you can, or for travel or whatever it is that you want, but to also make this video more so about using what we have. So if you already own some of these palettes and you're in a rut and you don't know what to do, then these are shades that I feel make for excellent one and dones. I will be swatching them on the back of my hand right here. I've got a window over there so that you can see how it catches the light. I'm not filming this with studio lighting, so that does mean that the shimmers are going to look quite muted. You need studio lighting or a flashlight for that, but nobody in their right mind actually goes under studio lighting in their day-to-day life. So I feel that this is the most realistic representation I can give you, and then I will be swatching everything on my forearm here and show you that towards the end of the video so that we have an overview of all of the shades. Let's get swatching. Let's tackle these singles first. And a single that I know I've mentioned before, but just because it is my current favorite one and done, I had to mention it again here. This came with me to Japan. I've traveled with this. This is such an easy breezy product. This is the Trinny London Eye to Eye in the shade Mystery. I always just use this one. You can see how much I've used it from the dent that this has, and I like how this packaging has the little click so that you actually know whether this is going to be shot or not, because this is a cream product. It's the only cream product I am sharing with you today, and this is very emollient, very sort of creamy feeling still, and I've had this for about 2 years or so. And the reason why I like this so much for a one and done is, as you can see, it's pretty muted, but it has a little bit of shine, and then it does have depth. So what I like about one and dones usually is that I want them to be deep enough so that they can have that little bit of contrast. So with a one and done, I want them to be light enough that it can work. It's usually like a mid-tone that I'm going for, but something that if I layer it, it will deepen up, or if I sheer it out, it's going to sheer out to a wash of color. And I feel that this ticks all the boxes. Because it is a cream, I can apply it with fingers, and I just use a fluffy brush to fluff it into the crease, and I'm done. I'm also a big fan of these Moira eyeshadows. These are their Lucent eyeshadows. Oh, this is also a cream shadow. This feels more like a cream to powder to me. This is in the shade Infinity, and these have a really beautiful flash. They're a little bit more duochromatic, but not all of them, and I feel that Infinity is that sort of really pretty taupe that I just really love for a one and done. So if you love taupe shadows like I do, you're gonna love this video. But yeah, this is really beautiful as well. Again, with a really beautiful shine. Can I show you this? It has a really beautiful shine in there. And then this has a very subtle but intense sparkle running through it. So this is really pretty. I don't find this to be a spicy neutral though, because I feel the shimmers in here aren't strong enough. And what happens to these is that they have a very sheer base, so that when you blend it out like this, it looks like there's nothing on my hand, right? It's just, you can see there's something, but it looks very inoffensive. And then when you twist it, it just has this sheen. And that's why I feel it's perfect for a one and done, because it does have a little bit of depth in the base pigment. You can like layer this and intensify it and like apply a little more if you want it to have more intensity. But just the fact that it shears out like this is why it's a perfect one and done to me. Another favorite of mine is the Klavuu Urban Pearlsation shadows. I've got two of these. This is Glambrown. Not sure if this is still around. I picked this up pretty randomly on YESSTYLE and have been loving it ever since. And Glambrown is again a taupe with a slightly stronger base and then just a really beautiful hint of sheen to it. Again, a slightly deeper base and then just loads of shine, so that when you blend it out, which I think with the powders in this video, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to like fan it out with a finger, but if you use this with a brush, you get this really nice diffused look. I think this may actually be a newcomer this year. This is by Jooycee. They are a Chinese beauty brand. This happens to be an MT122. This is really pretty. I have 3 of these. They are absolutely stunning. And they are, again, sort of like a cream to powder sort of texture, has a slightly deeper base and then loads of sparkle. With a lot of Asian beauty products, a lot of the palettes tend to lean more matte, and then you get fun shimmers like this that you can use in conjunction. But this by itself, I mean, it's a look. It's quite intense, a little bit more intense than what I've been showing you so far. But here again, it just has a soft base to it. And this is a little bit more silver leaning, but still so pretty. I'll see if I can like blend it ever so slightly. And then you can just see what this does. So when it's blended and it really lays on your lid, the texture, or not texture, but like the fact that you have an eye socket is going to make this look different every single time. And that's what I like about this so much. And where would we be in a one and done video without a little bit of Kiko? I love the Kiko water shadows. I also love their eyeshadow sticks. I could have easily put a couple of those in this video. But now they've reformulated these water shadows. I've really been enjoying shade 6, which is this nice sort of like deeper taupe shade. In the previous range, before they reformulated, the taupe shades were a little bit more gray leaning and the pearl was a little bit softer. But I actually prefer this formula because it has slightly more depth to the base color, and then the sparkle is a little bit more noticeable. So I actually prefer this, but I love my old ones as well. This is just a really beautiful formula, and they are called water shadows because these can be used wet or dry. So this is of course going to be the shade dry. And then you can see that it has this like more of like a satin feel to it with quite a bit of shine. Again, if I try to blend it out a little bit with my finger, then you can see that it's just a beautiful wash of color that is just going to look perfect every single time. But you can very easily intensify this shade in particular by either getting the corner of the shadow wet and picking it up that way, but that could ruin your product over time and get it to hard pan a little bit more easily. So what I like to do is that I just pick a little bit up with the brush and then spray my brush with a bit of MAC Fix Plus, and that way you can intensify the shimmer in this really easily as well. So a great one and done shadow, not just for the shade, but also this formula, because it's so versatile, because you can use it in many different ways. On to palettes then, and the first palette I wanted to show you is a very affordable option. This is by MUA. This is Andromeda Skies, and this looks really deep and dark and smoky, but I actually find that especially the shimmers in this aren't as dark once they go on as they look in the pan. So especially this shade here, this brown, and this is why I wanted to feature these, because these again are like a cream to powder kind of formula. Again, quite deep in terms of base, but then it has this really beautiful sheen, and this is quite a bit more depth, but I feel that when you blend this, like, do you see, like, doing this like with a fluffy brush, and you can just see on the edges how it is like a completely different shadow compared to what it is in the middle. So that's why I really enjoy shades like this. It has the sparkle, it has the shine, and a shade like this way, like when you blend it out, it seems to be like a little bit of like a plummy pink almost, which I really enjoy, even though in the pan it just looks like a straight up brown. So these shades really come to life when you start blending. Another brand that I feel is very much overlooked is LH Cosmetics. I'm not sure. I haven't seen many of their new releases, so is this still a brand? I don't know. I did see them in store in Sweden last year. LH Cosmetics is a Swedish brand because LH stands for Linda Hallberg, who is a Swedish makeup MUA, I should say. I was like, what's the word again? And a makeup artist. This is the Aim Higher, right? Yeah. This is the Aim Higher palette, and this shade in the middle is absolutely stunning. But I feel that this formula in particular is really good for one and dones because, again, this looks perhaps pretty intense in the pan, but it shears out really beautifully. And I do have to say, before I swatch this, Linda Hallberg palettes do not swatch the way they go on to the face when you use brushes. So there is that caveat that the finger swatch also in this video is probably not going to make this, like, it's not going to do this palette justice, just so you know. Now here is that taupey shade in the middle. Of course, I already mentioned I love a good taupe. It has that bit of depth. In a way, it's like a similar vibe to what the MUA has to offer. So maybe if you can't get MUA, but you can get this, that might be an option for you. Again, you can see on the edges here where I've like blended it with my finger that it looks like a completely different shade, which is what I'm looking for when it comes to a one and done. So here's another great option. And when it comes to a one and done for me, I just like there to be a little bit more shimmer because I find it is easier to transform those shades when you use them with different brushes rather than a matte. A matte is always going to look the same, at least to me it does. Lisa Eldridge's Vega is one and done heaven. Like, you can use this entire palette as a one and done, maybe not the blue and the black, but this shade here in the corner, that one I really like. And that's actually a little bit more, is that a matte? It is a velvet. It's called French Gray. And I do think, like, for a matte, because it has, let me swatch it and then I can explain it to you. It's really smooth, but where most mattes, I find them to be very flat because this is really light, but you can build it up. Like, again, if you shear it out, this also has a slightly creaminess to the formula. Let me build it up so you can see what I mean. So if you then add another layer, do you see that there's just, the more you build this, the more you blend this, the more you play with this, the more different it's going to look. So that's why I do really enjoy that shade as well in the Lisa Eldridge Vega palette. But I also think that a lot of Asian brands do really good one and done shades. Cheeryep is another one of them. This is pretty matte heavy. I believe this is called the Steelheart palettes. It's their more cool toned option. And these shimmers here at the top all look pretty deep. Of course, I'm going to go with the taupey one because that's just what I prefer. But these, again, what surprised me in using them on my lids was that they actually went on lighter, quite a bit lighter to what they look like in the pan. So here is what that shade looks like. And then when I blend it out, here is what you can expect. Just a really nice, sheer, buildable, shimmering layer. But I think if you're looking for palettes that have one and done shadows in, that Viseart is going to be a port of call for you, because not only is their formula really excellent for a one and done, also a lot of their palettes are pretty mid-tone heavy, especially this one, the Kashmiri Charmeuse. And I've been testing out some of the more recent launches that they've done, and I feel that a lot of their palettes have these excellent one and dones in. If you do like a matte one and done shadow, then a palette like this is just going to give you so many options. Of course, I like this shade here in the bottom. Like, that's the one I wanted to showcase here. But I feel that with Viseart, because of the more satin leaning quality of a lot of their shimmers, it's just easier to make them look like good in like different places on your lids, and you can just use one shade and it looks like you're wearing three. So a shade like this, I'm not exactly sure what it's called because Viseart doesn't put the names on their palettes, so this doesn't blend very nicely with a finger because it's more of that powdery texture. But you can see, like, where it's more depth, like it just looks differently, and then it can be like this sheeny wash. And then what you can also do with this is sort of like build it up, and you can smoke things out. So that's what I sort of mean with these one and dones and how versatile one shade can sometimes be if you just use different techniques or brushes, or your fingers even. And of course I have to mention my beloved Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palette. I've mentioned this palette plenty of times in the past month during eyeshadow palette month, because I just feel that this formula is so excellent as like, I see it as a bit of like a neutral painter's palette where all the shades go together, I can layer things together. So in terms of like getting a one and done sort of vibe from things, I feel that the Makeup by Mario palettes are excellent for this. I want to select the shade here in the middle because it's my favorite shade in this entire palette. And this is again one of those shimmer formulas that goes on super sheer when you do one layer. We can keep building this and intensifying this, and then it will just become more and more shimmery. I tend to wear it like this just as a bit of a wash of something, like just to add a bit of oomph to the lid. I like it like that, but I'll show you what I mean with intensifying it. So if I now take another layer of this shimmer, do you just see how perfect that is? If you just keep layering, this shade is going to look different every single time, and that's what I like about it so much. And then we have Pat McGrath's Mothership 1 Subliminal. So again, Pat McGrath palettes, especially the Mothership ones, I feel are excellent for finding one and done shadows, because you can use some of these like satiny matte shades as one and dones, but also the special shades that we get over on this side. For me, the best one and done in this palette is actually this shade right here. What's it called? It's called Substance. And it's like a slight hint of purple. It's a bit of a deeper sort of satiny matte type of shade. It's similar in the sense to the Eldridge Vega, where I'm normally not a fan of matte shadows. So I normally wouldn't be a fan of a like satiny matte like this as a one and done shadow, but here again, it has the depth that I want it to have for smoking things out and making it look more intense along the lash line, but then I can sheer it out. So in my brain, it sort of fits a similar bill as the Eldridge Vega palette does, where everything sort of works as a one and done, but this shade in particular, I think is really excellent if you're using it with different brushes. I'm sorry for sticking in so many high-end brands, but I do feel that they tend to do the best one and dones. Natasha Denona is another favorite of mine. We all know that. The formula I love. Similar reason as with the Makeup by Mario, how much you can like mix and match this and just how it all plays together. This is the I Need a Warm, and especially this shade right here called Homie. Perfect one and done, but I feel that with Natasha Denona, a lot of her palettes are also these like mid-tone level sort of palettes, so they also come with a lot of shades that you could potentially use as a one and done shadow, I feel. You know, I didn't just want to stick in like taupey shades, so this is definitely a little bit more of like a warmy sort of peachy gold sort of thing. And again, all over the lid and like fluffed into the crease. This is just absolutely just beautiful. And it does have a little bit of a slightly deeper base, so this is going to work when you deepen it up and when you use it along the lash line and those kind of things. I think Glossgods does some excellent things as well, not only in their neutral palettes, but if you like more colorful things as well, they do these all shimmer palettes that from time to time anyways, they seem to discontinue them really quickly. But in the Smoke and Mirrors, which was limited edition, but I'm praying they're bringing it back this year, they come with these like purpley tones, and especially this purple here in the middle is one of my favorites one and dones as well. It's so beautiful by itself, and I sort of use these two to set up the look, but the main star of the show is always this whenever I use this palette. So here is what that sort of deeper purple, like it looks so much deeper I feel in the pan than when you apply it. And here again, you can sort of still see where the finger swatches. This is not the best to be like blending it out with a finger, but you can see what happens around it. It looks almost more blue toned with the flash if you sheer it out, which is special. And the final palette I wanted to showcase is the Glamshop Creme de la Creme. Again, a palette where I feel any shade you pick from this could potentially be a one and done shadow. Maybe not the deepest ones, because this has quite a few like very deep things over here. We get these rosy tones and like really beautiful taupey things. Something that runs a little bit more bronzy peach as well. For the sake of variety, I'm going to be swatching this pink tone, but I feel like all the shimmers in here have this sort of level of satiny shimmer where it's still shiny and you can build it up to look metallic, but it doesn't have to be if you don't want to. So here is that pinky tone. Do you see, like, it just doesn't look that metallic-y in the pan, and then on the back of your hand, it's like, oh, there we go. And then when you shear it out, again, because it is a powder, it's going to stick a little bit more. But if you fluff this out with a brush, look at how beautiful that shine is. It just shears out beautifully, and this can so easily just be intensified for whatever part of your lid you're going to use it. And then here we have the full One and Done. So you can see, like, compared to the video I showed you last week, those shades had a lot more sparkle, were a lot more intense. Those are really like the fun pops of color. These perhaps look a little bit boring, but we all saw in the rest of this video that these definitely have something a little bit more oomph, that they can be layered, that they can be used in different ways. And that's how I see One and Dones. It's not like you don't need to put in effort to put on the eyeshadow, but you can stretch one shade to do multiple things if you're using different makeup techniques and doing all that. So you can use these with a finger to intensify them, or maybe even apply them to your lids very often, using a fluffy brush to blend them out a little bit more seamlessly, and then you can use like a smaller brush to intensify certain parts of the eye. But these are really good one and done shadows where it can just be a quick little easy look, or you can get a lot of versatility just out of one shade. So I forgot the names of the shades and in what order I swatched them for you. I do apologize, but I'll make sure to screenshot this image and have the names be put on the swatches so that you have an overview. But yeah, we have a nice little array here. I hope this video was helpful for you in case you were looking for a good one and done shadow that can just see you through and you don't have to faff about and do a whole lot of complicated things if that's not your style, or maybe you work in an environment where wearing a lot of like eye makeup just isn't a thing and you do want to wear something on your lids but you don't want it to be too noticeable. Like, these are all like really good shades where you can just use one thing and it's just going to look like a special look every single time. So very little effort, but maximum impact. That's how I would categorize these. So thanks for joining me here today. I still have one video left in eyeshadow palette month, which is going to go up tomorrow, and then I will be sharing with you my entire eyeshadow palette collection. So if you want to see more of that, then stay tuned, and I hope to see you again really, really soon. Bye-bye.